So we begin. Hello folks. Some of you will know about mixed media and or art journaling, and some of you may not. So here's a quick explanation of what it's all about before we start to play. Mixed media art is just that, a combination of painting, drawing, decoupage, stamping, stenciling, you name it, we do it. We can use any paint, ink, pencils, crayon, pastels, fabric, lace, ribbon, paper napkins, on wood, canvas, paper, in fact anything on anything. Art journaling combines traditional journaling elements with artistic expression. That is the official explanation. And it's a personal and visual way to record thoughts, emotions and experiences through the use of art supplies and techniques. One of the great things about this art is that it's very easy to do affordably, hence the description on a shoestring. And you don't have to be an artist or be good at drawing or painting to both thoroughly enjoy yourself and produce some remarkably attractive artwork. You'll surprise yourself. In South Africa, where I am, the cost of living is pretty high because our money has very little value elsewhere and imports can be incredibly expensive. But fortunately, there's some very good locally manufactured acrylic paints, adhesives and substrates available. And with a bit of imagination, a person can find all sorts of materials to make stamps and stencils. And of course that applies to us all, wherever we may live in the world. Most importantly, this hobby is very therapeutic. One becomes engrossed and busy and forgets to focus on chronic pain, grief, worry, etc. I speak from experience here, and the way that it's helped me is what motivated me to share my healing hobby with you all. Okie dokie then, let's get down to having some fun. Here are some tools that are essential to starting out. Some paintbrushes, makeup sponges, kitchen towel, so on and so forth. But I'll go through it with you so that you can see what I'm talking about. So here we go. Let's start with paintbrushes. I have a selection here, one of each. This is what's called, let's put my hand here. No, I need something a little bit darker. How about that? This is called an angle brush, which you can see from the shape of the bristles. It slopes down on one side. This is fabulous for edging, and I'll show you how it works as we go along. Then there's the flat brush. This is a 1 centimeter flat brush, which is pretty good, and I would say it's big enough. You don't need anything bigger unless you're actually going to be painting a background, and I'll show you those brushes shortly. Then here's your normal round brush, very nice, very easy to use. And then this one is fabulous. This is what's called a fine liner. I think if I put it here you'll be able to see it better. You see how tiny and fine the bristles are. Fabulous for drawing fine lines and incredibly detailed work. Then we've got the big flat brushes. These are the ones that I use for painting on a cover. For example, if I need to gesso a piece of paper, then I'll use this big wide one, because you know, a couple of brush strokes and you're done. And then there's a few smaller ones. They came in a set, so I've got them all, and they all come in handy at some time or another. Then this is what's known as a stencil brush. It's a round flat brush. As you can see, it can stand almost upright on its own. A little bit old, so the bristles are slightly uneven, but fabulous for if you're wanting to put on a stencil, use some color without smudging under the stencil. This is the perfect tool. Then we have some sponges, because sponges, if you've got a piece of paper that's been gessoed or has paint on it already, which means that it's a non-porous surface, and that's actually what you need to work on, because then it's so easy to correct mistakes and so on, as you will find out as we go along. But what I've got here is a little round sponge that comes out of medical jar, possibly a supplement of some sort or other. Quite a fine sponge, and very nice for dabbing on your stencils again, or for just making interesting looking marks and textures on a background. Then everybody's favorite, the makeup sponge. This one has been used, as you see. It has some color on, but if you rinse it until it runs clean, although some color may stick to it, this very fine, very smooth sponge makes it so easy to apply paint and to get beautiful effects with it. Okay, that's all the brushes done. Then we have other little tools, cutting tools. Let's start off most pleasing purchases. This is a paper trimmer. It's a fabulous thing. It works so nicely. Allow me to demonstrate. What you do is you take a little piece of paper. This one will be fine. You lift this thing up. It's on a hinge. This here is a cutting groove where the blade runs. So you line up your paper wherever you want to trim it. Let's just say we want to continue with that cut there. You place this on place your little ruler down so you can hold it and keep the paper from moving. Then this is the blade, which just moves smoothly down and cuts your paper. There we have it. Voila. So quick, so easy, and so much nicer than having to sit and try and cut a straight line. Because if you're anything like me, your eyes do not believe what they see, and you cannot cut a straight line. Okay. Now, having had a look at most of the tools, let's have a look at the stuff that we use with the tools. Starting off, glue sticks. Now, I didn't know that people were using a glue stick initially, and so I was using a project glue, which is like a crafting glue, and then this is acrylic matte medium. This stuff is fantastic for all sorts of things. I'll discuss that with us now. And here is the gesso. Gesso is fabulous. Gesso is like the universal undercoat for artists. You can use it on practically anything. It makes a lovely base for painting on paper. It helps, this is white gesso, so it helps to mask something that's been already written on. I'll show you just now. I've got a piece of recycled copy paper here that I'll show you how good the gesso is, and a couple of extra coats, and you can wipe it absolutely, you won't see anything through the gesso. It's very opaque, and it's very good as a base for, as I say, any substrate at all. And now the glue sticks. When I'm working with the glue stick, I take a piece of scrap paper, because you want to, when you're covering something with a glue stick, with glue, you're wanting to cover it properly, you want it to adhere nicely, you don't want corners peeking up. So then you actually need to get right to the edge. And then you have a sticky surface that you've just worked on. So you just keep working around this piece of paper until it's all sticky and messy, and then you simply throw it away. There we go. It sticks on and it stays. I've noticed that it works very well. Once you've glued something down properly, it's not going to come off again, which is very handy for decoupage, and it's so much cleaner and easier than using the traditional things like, for example, the liquid matte medium, because of course that is a wet thing and it needs to dry. The other advantage about using a glue stick is that when you put when you're using copy paper or some of these thin pages out of little books, you'll find that the paper ripples when you're painting, or when you put some liquid matte medium on. And if you use a glue stick, it doesn't ripple at all. So it just makes for a very smooth background to work on. Liquid matte medium on. And if you use a glue stick, it doesn't ripple at all. So it just makes for a very smooth background to work on. This is Mod Podge, or actually I see Darla's calling them Podge. So possibly Mod Podge was a trademark name, I'm not sure. Anyway, long story short, this is something else you can use for sealing a page if you're not using liquid matte medium. The only thing I need to point out is that when you are using Mod Podge, it sometimes can leave a slightly sticky residue, which can be a problem if you're using, if you're doing an altered book, for example, and you're painting it to seal a page. They are inclined to stick together if you're not careful. So I would recommend that you use Mod Podge for other things, which we will be discovering later, but stick to using the liquid matte medium for sealing a completed page, because it definitely is the answer. Now, what we also need to have a look at are colors and how to work with colors. So what I have here is a color wheel, which is what is recommended by most artists, because it shows you what colors look like when they're blended. It shows you which colors are complementary, which means they're opposite each other in the color wheel, and that makes them pop if you put them together. For example, turquoise and orange. There's your blue-green, there's your orange. You put those two colors together, you always get lovely, bright, sort of warm sensations from it. I have to confess to something. In all my very many years, I have been painting and drawing for as far back as I can remember, and I have to confess that I find it very difficult to understand a color wheel, which I know seems a little bit bizarre, but I just can't wrap my head around finding out if you move things what you're going to get and why. So I have another way of doing it. What I do is I've created this little book, and I've given it the name of Experiments with Color. It's just a little exercise book that I got from the local supermarket, and this is what I do. I take a color, blend it with another color, and see what the result is and put it down. So for example, here we have Prussian blue, magenta, and mixed together they give you this rather beautiful purple. Here you've got a color called phthalo blue, and dioxazine violet, which are these two colors, and that gives you a rather nice purple. So this is the way I do it, because this works for me. Here we've got some nice ones. This is crimson with a deep yellow, and you get a nice burnt orange. If you were to put magenta with Naples yellow, you get coral, which is also rather lovely. And finally, if you put bright red with bright yellow, you get a bright orange. So yes, you can see the differences, and for me this just makes more sense and works better for me. This is a lovely combination here. This is magenta, turquoise blue, and it will give you this lovely purple, which is one of my favorite mixes. So here we go, and here we have a ready-made masterboard. Now this is done with a gessoed page and a makeup sponge, and in fact it must have been this very makeup sponge, because I see the turquoise paint is still on here. Here I was experimenting. I was using the violet, dioxazine violet is its name, which is rather an interesting name, and it's taken me a while to remember it, but it is a kind of a light purple. Here it is, that is the light purple, the dioxazine purple, and I used phthalo blue. Now I've moved the book out of the way, silly me. I used phthalo blue, which is this color, dioxazine violet, and blended together you got the purpley color, which is here, the darker purple colors. And then just to add it to a little bit of depth of color, what I did was I took Prussian blue, which is the darker blue, and put it here and there. So yeah, that's what this is. And the reason why I've done it painted already is so that you guys can have a look at it without having to wait and watch me messing around. But I think it's quite important for you to see how I go about it. So this is recycling too, folks. This was a delivery envelope that came from the local pharmacist. So I use it for this, and when it gets too grubby to use anymore, then I toss it out and take another one out of my stash. Okay, this is a recycled piece of paper. If you look here, you can see there's a tiny little spot that has a bit of typing showing through, but it has been gessoed. So this little patch here will actually disappear under all the different paints that we're going to use. The color combination I've decided to use is magenta, which is this one. Let me bring it up to the light so you can see the color. And then this one is Naples yellow, and you can see it's kind of an opaque creamy yellow, but these two colors together create magic. So that's what we're going to do next, is we're going to get going with the fun. Okay, here we are, set up and ready to roll. I have sprayed this piece of paper. It has gesso on, but I've sprayed it with just a little bit of water, because it makes it so much easier to blend colors. I'll show you. If you see here now, this is the Naples yellow, and we can add, got a bit heavy-handed with the magenta here, but that's okay. I'll show you how we deal with that issue later on. So you see, you can just keep adding and changing your colors making them either muted or bright. You can fiddle and faff and carry on as much as you want, and if you feel like you need to moisture, put a little bit more moisture on your paper, either spray it on as I do, or there we go, a little bit more. There, here we go. Here's some magenta looking very cool. And I think that's about enough magenta, because I did get a bit carried away. It kind of jumped out of the tube at me. So we're going to stop using the magenta now and add in the Naples yellow, and see what goes on. Perhaps a bit more yellow on this side. We're looking rather pink, and pink is not my favorite color, so I tend to want to orange it up a little bit. What I'm aiming for here is to have more of a coral tone as opposed to the magenta pink. But it may be necessary to add a bit more paint, a bit more water, and go on a little bit further, which is what I'll do. I'll switch off the video for now. You can see how I'm doing it, and you can see how nicely it works. So let me take a little pause, and I'll come back. Okay, so I'm done, but we've got a rather pleasant surprise here. I don't know if you'll notice the white splash marks on there. What's happened there is, as I was working, I sprayed a little bit of water on, then I took the sponge and carried on applying color, and the water landing on the finished painting created this lovely splash. So I'm impressed with myself. Okay, so now what I have here, this is a hairdryer. Other people have a heat tool. I haven't been able to source one locally that is within my price range, so this little hairdryer works perfectly. It's a little bit noisy, so pardon the noise. Let's see how bad it is. Not too bad. I will not be doing this as the video works, because it's actually rather noisy. So I'm putting mine out to dry over here, out of sight, and let's move on to the next color. Now you'll notice that this one, I've deliberately used one that has quite a lot of printing on it. Again, it has one coat of gesso, so some of this will show through, but the reason why I'm doing it this way and using this one is because I want you to see what happens as you add layers, because this, what we're doing today, is our, you could say, first and second layer. The first layer being the gesso, the second layer being the color that we're adding. And what's going to happen is, as we move along, we'll be adding more and more colors which push back the layers that are there originally. So now we're going to do a nice one. This one is a green that I'm making with cerulean blue, it's called. This is the blue one. Got the wrong light on, sorry guys. And then here is a bright yellow. This is called deep yellow. It's from Dala. A much stronger color than the Naples yellow, as you can see. It's quite a difference. And now, oh my goodness, that's a little drop of paint. Now we're going to spray this just a little bit to give us some moisture. And I'm using a different sponge. It's also a makeup sponge, but the other one needs to be washed, and I don't want to waste time washing at the moment because I'd rather get my video up and running. So now let's see what happens when we start playing with these two colors. Yeah. Anyway, now I've added some of the bright yellow, and you can see the green starting to show through, but I think we definitely need some more of the blue to start, because we do want to have a fairly bright background here. We want some masking to happen over the previous printing, but this is how we do it. This is how we get it done. So now you can see that it's coming along quite nicely. So I'm going to turn off the video again, so you don't have to sit and watch me plucking paint, as they say in this country, and I'll be back very soon. So here we are back again. This is now the completed greeny, bluey, yellowy mix, and as you can see, the green is the main color, and I'm very happy with the way this has turned out. Plus you will notice that it's pretty difficult to see the print behind the paint, and the more layers we add to this, the more it's going to, what they call, become knocked back. In other words, it will slowly disappear or become less noticeable. It's more like the truth. It does look as if these things are not really telling us anything exciting, but with a little time and a little bit of practice, you will be looking at them and coming up with inspiration. For example, I'm looking at this one and I'm thinking, okay, could be the sky seen through a bunch of trees, you know, the sort of dark and the limey green of the leaves of the tree, and the sky in the background. Possibilities. But that comes later. We're done for today. I just want to show you how these turned out. I mean, I just love these splash marks down this, more noticeable on the one side than the other, but it's so cool, isn't it? It really looks like it was done on purpose, and in actual fact all that's happened is the water was sprayed and splashed onto wet paint, so when the sponge kind of picked up a little bit of the moisture, left a nice white patch for us. Lucky us. And then this was the final one, the one that I arrived here with today. But I want to thank you people for having the patience to watch my whole video. I ask you to please like and subscribe to my channel, because that is going to make me more noticeable on YouTube, and it's going to enable me to go further with my dream, which is to be able to pass on the information and the knowledge that I've gained and the experience. So until we meet again, Bye-bye. I hope that you enjoyed yourselves. I really do. I do apologize for the fact that sometimes the sound has gone a bit weird, but I'm still learning to use all my bits and pieces. But until we meet again, like I said, bye-bye and stay well.